Of British electricity generated by burning coal and gas fell to a record low of just 2.4% earlier this month. The share of power coming from fossil fuels hit the new low at lunchtime last Monday and lasted for an entire hour. Well, I'm joined now by Angela Knight, who's the former CEO of Energy UK. Angela, welcome to the show. Always a pleasure. So, does this spell the end for fossil fuels, or was this a good day when actually the wind was blowing and the sun was out?
And I suspect the demand was also quite low. So if one puts the whole thing into context, you know, it's impossible to build quite so many wind farms as we've built in this country over this last short few years, and particularly some of those that are offshore, without us having a steady increase in the amount of electricity we generate from renewables. So actually, that's a good thing, and I'm glad to see that it's happening. On the other side of the equation, though, because most renewables are intermittent, we can debate what nuclear is, but most as renewables are intermittent, that means that there's got to be an equivalent amount of backup or battery storage or some such available for when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine and it's cold and we're all at home and we've put the heating on. So, yeah, there is a balance to be had. And whilst I think it is a good thing that there's this attention on renewables, what worries me is there's nothing like the attention that needs to be there, both on replacing our old nuclear, but also ensuring that we've got gas-fired power stations and gas available, because we will need those, and we'll need them for a long period of time to come.
And Angela, it's very, very important to point out, is it not, that the figure referred to here is the mains power taken, not the total power taken to power industry. You can't run cement mills or brickworks off of mains electricity. That's a completely different thing. So that's a key point. Being able to plug in is completely different to be able to fire up for industry. And the facts remain, do they not, Angela, that even now we're running at, what, 70% reliance on gas? So this cherry picking of stats here?
There's a lot of cherry picking on stats, goes on everything. And energy, to my mind, often far more than anything else, because people have this sort of emotional link with the environmental agenda. And so they'll see the environment piece as being absolutely right up at the top, and they'll just plug it regardless. There's another thing about this statistic as well in front of us. It is for a half-hour period. It's not, you know, and the normal day is 24 hours. We shouldn't detract, though, from the point that actually we've got more renewable power, and that's a good thing. At the same time, we should not detract from the point that we need long-term power, reliable, produced by fossil fuels in this country and also by nuclear. And that's why I said earlier that, unfortunately, the focus is only on one part of the whole story. And nobody talks much, really, about the fact that you have to take the electricity from one part of the country to another part of the country. It's the national grid. And the national grid was built to have a few large power stations dotted about in appropriate geographic positions. Now it's taking on a huge number of small small power plant electricity produced from renewables. And the consequence of that is that we have to rebuild the grid. So we're talking about billions and billions of investment required in the grid alone, as well as much more on nuclear. We've got to retain and make sure that our gas is modern and it's upgraded where necessary. And this is going to cost a lot of money. So yes, cherry-picking statistics might be good fun, but it doesn't give the whole answer to something that is very important for all of us in this country and for business. And unfortunately, there's never been the proper debate of who pays how much and for what.
And Angela, briefly, if we could, you've hit a key point there, because all of the additional grid, that's extra costs. And green energy proponents like to say all the time, well, it's the cheapest form of energy there is, because, of course, the wind and the sun is free, but the cost of building turbines, the cost of building solar panels, the cost of building the grid to get it to our houses, that all adds up. How cheap actually is green energy compared to more traditional forms?
Well, you see, I don't think it is. because when the focus is just on green energy, has the price of the windmills come down? The answer is yes. Has the price of the solar panels come down? And the answer is yes. But 1 unit of electricity from renewables also requires another unit of reliable backup. So 1 unit, therefore, of renewable electricity from one power station, one renewable power station, renewable wind farm, say, requires an equivalent of a reliable backup. Therefore, whatever the cost is of a renewable, it's actually more than twice it because of that backup requirement. Unless we're all prepared to say, oh, well, no, it's okay. We'll only switch on the lights when the wind's blowing. And industries say, oh, we'll only do manufacturing when the wind's blowing, which, of course, is a nonsense. And that ability to properly account for renewable backup and the transmission, the whole package, if you like, the ability to do that is there, but it has been ducked by all political parties in favour of just focusing on the one thing called carbon reduction and let's decarbonize our electricity system. And you have to take people with you. It's no use having the big vision thing unless people are with you on that. I mean, the current proposal to try and get us to net zero and cut out, just have electric cars and so on. I mean, the deadlines are ridiculous. They're impossible. And now we've got another deadline, apparently, that's been reduced from 2035 to 2030. It simply can't be done. And actually, it can't be done from an engineering perspective. It can't be done from a financial perspective. And how much are people prepared to pay? Because in the end, there's nobody else that's going to pay for all this except for us as consumers or us as taxpayers. And most of that us is exactly the same people.
Absolutely fascinating stuff. Thanks for sharing your expertise.